Hey everyone, welcome. Today we're going to break down one of the most important parts of the US government, the executive branch. It can seem like a really big topic, but trust me, we're going to make it super simple. Ready? Let's dive in.
Okay, so you probably know that Congress is the branch that makes the laws. But that brings up a really important question. Yeah, exactly. I mean, who's actually in charge of taking those laws off the page and putting them into action in the real world?
And that, right there, is the main job of the executive branch. Perfect way to put it. You can think of Congress as the team that writes the playbook for a game, while the executive branch is the team on the field actually running the plays. Their whole job is to enforce and carry out the laws.
And the quarterback of that team, the person in charge of this entire massive branch, is the President of the United States.
Now, the president has a ton of different jobs and powers. And honestly, the easiest way to understand them for the GED is to imagine the president wearing different hats for different situations. Yep, it's a great way to keep it all straight. And we're going to focus on the three big ones you absolutely need to know. All right, let's grab that first hat. It's the chief legislator hat. And this one is all about how the president works with, and sometimes against, the legislative branch, Congress.
So, when the president has this hat on, they can suggest new laws or give big speeches like the State of the Union to push for their goals. But the one power you have to remember is the veto. The veto is a game changer. It means the president can look at a bill passed by Congress and just say, nope, and reject it. It's a massive check on the power of Congress.
Okay, hat number 2. The president is also the commander-in-chief. As you can probably guess from the name, this one's all about the military.
That's right. As commander-in-chief, the president is literally the top boss of the entire U.S. military. The Army, the Navy, the Air Force, they all answer to the president, who has the authority to send troops into action.
And our third big hat for today gives the president a whole lot of influence over the judicial branch, the court system. With this hat on, the president can grant pardons for federal crimes. But the really big power here is the power to appoint federal judges. And this is huge. Seriously, think about it. The president gets to choose who sits on these powerful courts, including the Supreme Court. And since those judges can serve for life, their decisions can shape the country for decades, long after the president who chose them is gone.
So, we've talked about all this power the president has. But here's the twist, and this is maybe the most important part of U.S. government. It is not unlimited. Not even close. The whole system is built on an idea called checks and balances. We love to call it a power dance, because each branch has moves to limit or check the others.
Let's go back to that veto. So, the president can check Congress's power by vetoing a bill. That's a big move. But Congress has a counter move. That's the balance. If they can get a 2/3 vote in both the House and the Senate, they can override the president's veto. The bill becomes a law anyway. See how that works?
And it's the exact same kind of dance when it comes to appointing judges. The president makes a move and checks the courts by picking a new justice. But, and it's a big but, the Senate gets to balance that power. They have to review the president's choice and vote to confirm them. If the Senate says no, that person doesn't get the job. Period. Okay, but there's one final, really powerful check on the president. It's kind of like the ultimate failsafe, and it comes from the judicial branch itself. It's a concept called judicial review. Basically, this means the Supreme Court can look at an action or an order from the president and decide if it follows the rules of the Constitution. And if the court decides it doesn't, if they declare it unconstitutional, then that action is immediately stopped, dead in its tracks. It's a perfect example that shows no one, not even the president, is above the law.
So obviously, the president isn't running around the country enforcing every single law by themselves, right? The executive branch is gigantic. Heck no. So let's take a quick look at the president's support team. First and foremost, you've got the vice president, and their number one most important job is actually pretty simple. Be ready to become president if the current president can no longer do the job.
And then there's a team of expert advisors called the cabinet. These are the leaders of the 15 major executive departments. You've got the Secretary of State, who advises on dealing with other countries, and the Secretary of Defense, who advises on the military, and so on. They help the president run this huge operation.
Okay, so let's tie this all together. We've talked about hats and dances and checks, but why does any of this really matter?
Look, if there's one thing you walk away with today, it should be this. The entire system is designed to make sure no single person or branch of government gets too powerful. Exactly. The president has some incredible powers, for sure, but the other branches, Congress and the courts, always have the tools to push back and check that power. It forces everyone to compromise and work together.
And that brings us to a final question, something for you to really think about. How does this constant power dance, this whole system of checks and balances, actually work to protect your rights and your freedoms in your day-to-day life? It's a big question, but it's at the heart of everything we've talked about today.